I believe that the 2026 NFL season is going to be a make or break season for quarterback CJ Stroud. Now, before I get into this whole thing, I do want to say that I believe in CJ Stroud. I was high on CJ Stroud at Ohio State. I was high on him coming into the NFL. I like CJ Stroud a lot, and I think that he has all of the tools to be a franchise quarterback in the National Football League. But we cannot ignore what we have seen recently from CJ. Now, I'm going to break it down and give my thoughts. We're going to talk about the Texans offseason so far as well. Obviously, we have the draft coming up, so there's going to be some big moves in the near future as well. But as of right now, what we have seen from Houston, I feel like they've operated with a tremendous amount of urgency so far this offseason to correct some things that I think are going to be able to help CJ get back on track. Because CJ in his rookie year, he was spectacular. He was sensational. He looked like the quarterback I was expecting to see in the NFL. But since that rookie year, it feels like CJ has been chasing that version of himself. Now, I think that there's a couple things going on here. Number one, we got to be honest about what happened this past postseason. We could sit up here and, coaches, players, they did the right thing by saying this is on us. DeMeco Ryans, I respect him leaving in CJ Stroud. And by the way, I think DeMeco Ryans is without a doubt one of the best coaches in the National Football League. The Texans handled everything the right way. But when I'm analyzing here on YouTube and I'm breaking it down, I'm going to give you my brutal, honest, no walking on eggshells take. And that is the fact that the reason the Texans did not advance to the AFC Championship and give themselves a chance to get to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, which I thought that they were capable of doing, was because of CJ Stroud. And if you would have asked me this a few years ago, I would have said, no way. The Texans not moving on to a massive opportunity because of CJ Stroud? No way. No way. Now, obviously, there were some circumstances, right? Nico Collins going down, Dalton Schultz going down, the offensive line being banged up, and some of the questionable decisions I feel like Houston made as a front office when it comes to the offensive line. We get all of that. But when you had what I thought was the best defense in the National Football League, them and the Seattle Seahawks, don't waste that defense. Don't waste that defense. And I feel like they did this past year. But the good news is the 2026 season is a chance for redemption. And I feel like this is make or break for CJ Stroud as a starting quarterback in the NFL, because I think the Texans have sat back and said, what can we do to help CJ get back to the player that he was? Because I don't think that it's the intangibles and the skill of CJ Stroud that is in question. You see him. You see flashes. He can make every single throw. He's a very good pocket passer. He's got sneaky athletic abilities, very good off-play action. To me, his confidence has been shaken. And I feel like some of that was obviously when you lose your go-to weapons on the perimeter. You're without Tank Dell basically this year, right? Nico Collins ends up going down. Obviously, that is going to sting. And when your offensive line's banged up, you don't have confidence. You don't have confidence in your protection up front. So it's going to speed up your clock and all these different things going on. I understand all of that. But the problem I have is the turnovers that we were seeing from CJ in the postseason. Basically, all of those were not, well, the clock is sped up and I'm trying to, force something here. It's just questionable decision-making, and that to me is alarming. That is alarming. But I think it's going to be fixed. I think it's going to be fixed coming into the 2026 season, because what the Houston Texans have done, I think, speaks to them trying to invest and make this happen with CJ Stroud and get him the help that he needs. And to me, that really started with them going out and making the move to bring in running back David Montgomery. Because one of the things about the Texans, we saw it in the playoffs against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw flashes of it throughout the season, but the run game was rather inconsistent. And a lot of that has to do with the offensive line. We understand that. But when you bring in a bruiser and a power force like Montgomery to the backfield, and then you pair him with Woody Marks, who had a really good season, I like the dynamic duo. It's versatile. You got power. You got speed. You got versatility out on the perimeter. You got these explosive plays. You can pound the defense, wear them down, set up the play action where I think CJ is at some of his best when you can get the run game going. And we all know the great friend of a quarterback, especially a young quarterback, especially one that seems to be a little bit lost in terms of his confidence. You bring in a dynamic rushing attack to help him out, and it's going to change life. It's going to change life, but that's not all. Right? They go out and bring in guard Wyatt Teller from the Cleveland Browns, an all-pro player who maybe he's not the guy he once was a few years ago. But Wyatt Teller is still a force on the interior of the offensive line, a really good run blocker, decent in pass pro, right? His numbers statistically have slipped a little bit. Maybe him getting a little bit older, not quite the same guy, but again, he was in Cleveland, and we know that was a rough situation. So him coming to Houston with basically an established football team, a team that was 12-5 this past year, finished second in the AFC South. He now comes into what I feel is maybe the best the offensive line has looked in Houston in a long time, man. This is some of the best that I have felt about this Houston offensive line in a while, and I imagine that they are going to add offensive linemen in the draft. Maybe they'll bring in some guys as well before camp. I'm not quite sure exactly what they're going to do. I'm not part of the front office. But when I look at this offensive line, you got Ursery at tackle, Teller and Ingram at guard, Andrews at center, which that's going to have to be addressed because I don't think that Andrews is obviously the long-term guy there. But then you bring in Braden Smith. You got Trent Brown. Like, you have options at the tackle position. You got some depth. This is a very solid offensive line. So now that should help with the confidence of CJ Stroud. So you invest in protecting your quarterback. It's like, okay, we got to refigure this thing out. Let's go get a really dynamic back that's powerful, can help dominate the line of scrimmage, help get the run game going. We'll pair him with Woody Marks. We'll have these guys kind of rotating in and out, an A1, A2, if that makes sense. And then you have a solid offensive line. So now CJ should have confidence in the protection in front of him. And then they go out here and they add some pieces on the defensive side of the ball, like Reed Blankenship from the Eagles, very good safety, adds some versatility to the back end, right? Logan Hall and Dominique Robinson on the defensive line. And we know how D'Amico Ryans is with that 4-3 defense that, known for having the depth, just like when he was in San Francisco. We still see that with the 49ers, investing in the defensive line, work from the front back, bringing in depth, being able to rotate guys in and out, not having to send all these blitzes, rushing for, and you have the depth. And that's what they do here. They bring in Foster Moreau, a tight end. This, to me, is a team that I had said all year long, despite Nico Collins going down later in the year, despite being without Tank Dell, they have some tremendous young talent at the receiver position in Houston. And you can't tell me otherwise, right? So healthy receiving core, you got Nico Collins, Tank Dell, your top two. You got Higgins, Noah, and Hutchinson. Those three dudes, Higgins, Noel, and Hutchinson, I think are really talented young receivers. They can do it all. And then a tight end, you bring back Dalton Schultz. You got Jordan. You got Cade Stover. You got Moreau now. You got a very deep tight end room. So to me, the Houston Texans are doing literally everything in their power to make this offense better around CJ Stroud to help get the confidence back. Then we already know that the defense essentially returns basically everybody, right? I mean, this defense, I don't have to tell you about the Houston defense, right? Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, probably the best pass rushing duo in the league, right? You got Sheldon and Tommy on the interior, Henry, Azeez Al-Shire, EJ Speed, they brought him back at linebacker. I mean, Stingley, Lassiter, Jalen Petrie, one of the most dynamic players in the secondary in the entire league, Bullock, bringing in Reed, MJ Stewart. To me, the Houston Texans defense is not going to be in question. They are going to be one of the top defenses in the NFL again. But I believe the way that the Houston Texans have approached this offseason is they sat back and they've looked at what's kind of happened with CJ Stroud over the past few years. It feels like he's kind of been chasing the shadow of his rookie year. And I feel like some of that is play calling. I haven't loved all the things that I've seen on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to play calling. I think they're going to get the run game going, number one. Number two, you're building a fortress in front of CJ Stroud to help with his confidence. Because, again, if you feel like you're in a position like maybe CJ did in the playoffs where you're like, man, I just got to do something here. I don't trust my offensive line, and without some of my big playmakers, that's one thing. But we're going to find out this year. Because some of the decision-making that I was seeing in the playoffs, he looked like a deer in headlights the minute they hit the postseason. And that was weird to me. Because we had seen CJ play well in the postseason before. We had seen him win playoff games. He's not an inexperienced playoff quarterback, and that is exactly how he played this past season. It's exactly how he played this past season. And if they had competent quarterback play this past postseason, even with the way the offensive line worked, even with some of the pieces out on the perimeter going down, Dalton Schultz going down, this was still a team that to me could have went out there and challenged to win the AFC at the end of the day. They could have. They absolutely could have. And to me, they're the favorites to win the AFC South for 2026. My way too early prediction is the fact that the Houston Texans win the AFC South. And I think they're going to. I think CJ Stroud is going to fix this. And I've been hard on CJ Stroud, man. I was very, very hard on him from what we saw in the postseason specifically. I believe in CJ Stroud. I always have. I think he's a very good quarterback. I think he can make every single throw. He's got that sneaky athletic ability. He's really, really good off of play action. Stepping up into the pocket, shotgun play action, hitting the deep ball down the field, getting him a little bit on the move on some of those bootlegs. I feel like they got to refine and retune the offensive philosophy a little bit to help him out as well. But what I've seen from the Texans is a tremendous amount of urgency to fix what they can up front at the skill position group to help get that confidence back for CJ Stroud. Because what I saw in the postseason, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. And I understand people saying, maybe he felt like he had to do too much given what we saw from the offensive line, and I understand that. But there's a difference between they're barreling down in your face and you're just trying to make things happen, and it's like you can't move the ball whatsoever, so you're taking these risks. That's one thing. But when I see you stepping up into the pocket against the Pittsburgh Steelers and there's nobody barreling down and you're throwing a ball into double coverage where your guy is completely covered and it's getting picked off and you're driving him like, what are you doing? What are you doing? We saw it in the Patriots game, the turnovers, left and right. And it's like, man, can you just not manage the game because of how good your defense is? Lean into your defense. Lean into your defense. So for me, this is one of those things where CJ Stroud's going to have to figure this out because obviously he's in a position to where contract talks, they're going to be coming up. In fact, maybe they've already started. I'm not quite sure at the time of me recording this. But this is a big deal in 2026 for CJ Stroud. It's a big deal because this Houston Texans team, they are a legit contender, man. This isn't some team that's in some sort of rebuild mode and trying to figure it out. This is a team that can win now. And before you have to pay a quarterback, where you still have CJ on what his rookie deal, right? You have the money to spend on all of these other pieces and you can really fill out this roster, which is what they're doing. And to me, they've acknowledged we need to help CJ get his confidence back. To me, it has nothing to do with the skill of CJ Stroud. It has to do with something up here. It has to do with something up here. Because everything we saw his rookie year intangible-wise, in terms of the throws, in terms of the movement, we've seen all of that. We still see it. To me, it's some of the decision-making, and he's looked a little bit shook to me out there. And I feel like if you beef up the offensive line, you add the depth and versatility like they have at the skill position groups, this is a team that's going to be able to run the football. They're going to be able to be multiple on the offensive side of the ball to be able to take some of that pressure off of CJ Stroud because we even saw in the postseason, especially against the Patriots, the run got taken away. And the minute that happens, it makes you very predictable. It makes you predictable and it allows a pass rush to pin their ears back and just tee off on the quarterback. When your offensive line is rough to begin with, sounds like a bad night. So it's going to be a bad night. So I like what I've seen from Houston. I like the urgency. I like the depth pieces. I think that I've been saying it for a while. The big talk is Tank Dell and Nico Collins. We'll see what goes on with Tank Dell and all that kind of stuff. And Nico Collins coming back as well. I think that this is a young, dynamic, versatile receiving core that was not getting nearly enough credit this past season. So I think that this offense takes a step in the right direction, but I'm telling you right now, I think that this is a make or break season for CJ Stroud as a starting quarterback in the NFL, because if he goes out there and lays an egg once again with a team that, in my opinion, has everything that they need to go out here and try to win the AFC, what held them back this past season? You could say bad offensive line play. You could also say CJ Stroud's play in the postseason. Do we see that again this year? I certainly hope not. I certainly hope not, because I'm rooting for CJ. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he has all the skills. I think it's something up here. I think that the confidence has been shaken a little bit again. So the Texans go out there, they beef up the offensive line, they bring in some extra pieces, they help reinforce the defense. I think CJ will bounce back in 2026 in a big way. I know he missed some time as well during the season. Mills came in and played pretty good. So, again, hopefully CJ Stroud stays healthy, can ball throughout the season. I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting for, to see him turn this thing around and get the Texans on track in the postseason, delivering and contending like I think that they should, because it felt like he was trying to give that Steelers game away, man. It felt like he was a double agent. And it was a disaster in New England. It was a disaster. But I feel like the Texans have made all the proper steps. They've taken all the necessary steps in the right direction. I'm sure they're going to fine-tune the offensive line a little bit more. They brought in Evan Brown as well, an experienced guy up front as well. I think that this is a team that takes their offense to the next level, and we see CJ Stroud hopefully figure this out this upcoming season. Because like I said, with contract talks looming, all these different things, I feel like this is a massive make or break year for CJ Stroud as a starting quarterback. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor, please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And if you could subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you next time.